All right, some breaking news out of the Supreme Court. We've been waiting on this, Heather, and it looks like the Supreme Court has blocked the federal government's COVID-19 vaccine or test requirement for large workplaces. However, they're going to allow the vaccine mandate for workers at federally funded healthcare facilities to take effect nationwide.
This is two different opinions that we've been waiting for to come down. One on the workplace vax or test policy, then the other on the healthcare vaccine mandate. We know that Justices Breyer, Sotomayor, and Kagan, they dissented from the decision to block the vax or test rule for workplaces of 100 or more employees. And then you had Justices Thomas, Alito, Gorsuch, and Barrett dissent from the decision to allow the healthcare vaccine mandate to take effect nationwide. So as expected there with the split amongst the court.
Yeah, as expected to a lot of the people we talked with.
You remember we spoke about these oral arguments last week when those 9 justices were hearing the case, the OSHA case, and of course the Medicare, Medicaid mandate. Mixed ruling here from the justices in the OSHA case. And really what was at stake in all of this was 100 million workers faced with the decision of either getting the vaccine or potentially losing their jobs. And the OSHA mandate, if we'll focus on that for a second, affected private companies with 100 or more employees. And that was essentially a huge deal because the argument there was that this was going to cost businesses. The attorney representing that case talked about how there were statistics on how this would put companies out of businesses. Now, OSHA had delayed that mandate while there was litigation going forward, but those fines would have been in place. So huge ruling there, not so much on the Medicare, Medicaid, because this affects 17 million workers in federal funded facilities. And perhaps we saw the justices rule differently on this because this is something that is federal funded. But the justices in these arguments went really hard, particularly at the attorney that was arguing against the OSHA mandate. And they seemed to be asking very political questions in terms of, why this was not publicly necessary for the community to guard against COVID-19. And this is really the dilemma that we've seen in the pandemic all along. It's the catch-22, which is how do you balance the health aspect of this with the economic aspect of this? You can't necessarily shut down businesses. It's going to impact workers, and it's also going to contribute to staff shortages. I'm going to try to find this statement for you. It looks like it said OSHA's mandate fails that doctrines test. The agency claims that the power to force 84 million Americans to receive a vaccine or undergo regular testing, by any measure, that is a claim of power to resolve a question of vast national significance. This was the argument, Bob and Heather, all along, was that this was an overreach by the executive branch and that anything that was mandated should have gone through Congress. That's a big, so we are seeing a victory for businesses who were arguing against this on the OSHA mandate. Not so much for federal workers at this point that are going to have to report to these facilities and adhere to that vaccination or mask and regular testing rule. We're seeing some reaction, of course, to this ruling right now on Twitter from some Republican senators. Senator Mike Braun said President Biden's vaccine mandate for private employees is unconstitutional and wrong. I was proud to lead the vote to overturn this illegal mandate in the Senate and the Supreme Court. Blocking this mandate is a win for the liberties and livelihoods of millions of Americans. Ted Cruz simply, boom. Major victory for the rule of law. And Josh Hawley, SCOTUS decision and vaccine mandate case is a big victory for the liberty, the rule of law, and the Constitution. A lot of people celebrating that decision, at least lawmakers on the right side of the aisle, given the fact that they believed that this was impeding on personal freedoms of people having the choice to get the vaccine or not. The OSHA mandate, again, shot down private companies, 100 employees or more. They argued that that would have had a significant impact on businesses, not just from a cost standpoint. It would have been very financially costly for these businesses, but it would have impacted staff shortages, arguments there that this could have actually closed a lot of businesses. Not so much, again, on the other side of that with the Medicare, Medicaid mandate. reading a little bit more about the ruling, the secretary deemed, and this was part of the arguments too, you know, they had to prove that there was a grave danger, to employees. And of course, in that, it said that the secretary would impose conditions on the receipt of Medicare and Medicaid funds that the secretary finds necessary in the interest in the health and safety of individuals. Obviously, Bob and Heather, across the board, we see divisions on the idea of vaccine mandates, whether you live in a blue state or a red one. It's a very divisive issue, particularly here in Congress in Washington. And of course, we're seeing that reflected in the split Supreme Court ruling.
Yeah, but still just temporary as it continues now to move through the lower courts.
But do you think that anything would change in the opinion of the Supreme Court if it made its way back up?
I don't know. We'll see.